healthcare worker. Sa pandemyang ito, we are considered to be in front lines, tagapag-alaga sa may sakit. Mga bayani raw kaming maituturing. Nagsasakripisyo sa ngalan ng serbisyo. Pagod, takot, but we continue to do what we can to help others. Good afternoon to everyone. I have always felt Christ's presence in my life, and during this pandemic, He somehow has shown me, in more ways than one, that He is ever present. He provides, He protects, He saves, and He knows what's best for us. My name is Nona Adenia Vargas, and I am a healthcare worker, a nurse by profession. I had served as a COVID ward nurse during this pandemic. When news of COVID-19 first arrived, of course, we in the healthcare profession were all worried and somehow clueless how exactly to deal with the situation. In a way, it was a blessing that at that time, I was on a leave to prepare for my exams and to process my papers to pursue my plans to go abroad. I took a qualifying examination and was supposed to go back to the hospital a few weeks after, but my father, like any other parent who was worried for their son or their daughter, forbade me and even convinced me to stop working completely. Of course, I was deeply disheartened that I cannot go back to work. I know it was my responsibility. I swore an oath to use whatever I know to serve others, but I cannot at that moment. I was in the state of worrying for my colleagues that I left in the hospital, one staff short, and fighting for their lives. But at the same time, I was also scared of this new virus. I got more worried for them when I received news that our hospital was admitting COVID-19 patients and that my floor in particular was to be converted into a COVID ward. On the other hand, I should be happy, I thought to myself, because I am allowed to not partake in that fight and struggle, because there is a big chance for one not to survive, given that a lot of healthcare workers have already died from COVID-19. It is as serious as that, as we all know. I convinced myself through the weeks that I can just stay at home, have time for my family and for myself, enjoy not working, and just create new hobbies. But even so, deep in my heart, I know that I had to do something. My heart fell deeper and deeper every day, seeing how my colleagues struggle with a lack of support and lack of PPEs, and even more whenever they messaged me that they were understaffed and needed help. Now, it is important to understand that lacking even a single staff would have a great impact to the patients and also to the staff. Week after week, I tried to convince my dad, and he would always respond with a no. It came to a point when I finally gave up, because I also had a strong feeling that nothing at all is going to change his mind, and I didn't want to quarrel with him and my mom. But when I finally gave up, a few weeks after, my churchmates here at St. Gabriel, Kuya Gerald Corpus and Kuya Alger Alcazar, invited me to a weekly prayer meeting. I attended each week, and one fateful night, I had what I believe was my ghost signal from the Lord to fight. I will read to you the lines that struck me most in our readings that night. This is from Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Before whom shall I shrink? Though an army encamp against me, my heart would not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I would trust. God hides me in the shelter of his tent. On a rock I am secure. And this is from 1 John chapter 3, verses 16 to 20. We know love by this, that Jesus laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? Let us love not in word or speech, but in truth and action. And by this, we will reassure our hearts before Him whenever our hearts condemn us. For God is greater than our hearts, and He knows everything. After our prayer meeting that very night, I composed a message to my parents since I wanted to convey my message clearly and effectively about the word that I had just received. I told them how I know from that sign from God that I need to go back and serve as the pledged nurse that I am. That indeed this is my calling, and I am sure this is my purpose. That when I swore to serve as a nurse, I also swore to my God. That God promised to save and protect me, and I believe. That whatever the outcome may be, I should not be scared because He loves me and appreciates me and sees my struggles and sacrifices for Him and for our neighbors. That by responding positively to His call, I know that whatever happens, the Lord will always be there for me. He will never leave my side. He will be my strength, and I do not have anything to fear. My parents, they do not have anything to fear. And worry does not help anyone. The Lord's will, whatever it may be, is what will be. My mom, my dad especially, finally allowed me to go back. I expected a big fight that night, but he allowed me in peace. He even encouraged me. And that is when I knew the Lord really was present, even in our conversations. A week after, I went back to the hospital right away and served in the COVID ward. I would be scared from time to time, but I would hold on to my faith. I did my best and without worry, because I know He called me. He will not abandon me. When some of the restrictions loosened for some period of time, I finally had the chance to process my requirements for abroad again. This time, as sad as it was, I had to officially resign in order for me to focus on studying. I was again worried that I might pass the virus, if ever I contracted it, to my family, since I never returned home since I went back to work. But the Lord, true to His word, helped me with this concern. I was reassigned as an operating room nurse when I rendered my last month in the hospital. We rarely had COVID cases there, probably only once or twice in my entire final month, so there were less chances that I might get the virus and pass it on to my family when I get back home. I was in complete awe when I realized how that impacted my situation. The Lord made a way for me. He knew just what I needed. Brothers and sisters, we may have difficulties, worries, and struggles, and this pandemic may have amplified them. We may feel resentful, hateful, sad, and anxious. We may have even lost a family member or a friend to this ruthless virus. But have no fear, for the Lord never gave us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-control. Most of the time, we thirst for a lot of things. We want things that we think we need and are important to us. We thirst for sense of accomplishment, sense of purpose or direction, especially in these turbulent times. We want things to go our way and forget that God, in His grace and mercy, has everything planned out for us. As hard as it may seem to believe sometimes, God is always in control, and we are to trust, for He has plans for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us hope and a future. God works miracles and we may not recognize them now, but soon He will make sure that we will. All that is left for us to do is to believe and trust His love for us. May we see this pandemic as a mere challenge for our faith and check on ourselves. How much are we still trusting the Lord and His ways? How much are we still holding on to hope? How much are we showing love to our brothers and sisters in need? Are we thinking only about our own desires and plans? Are we so focused on our own selves that we forget the rest of humanity? Let us continue to be selfless amidst these trying times and do the best that we can to simply be the image of Jesus Christ, who gave His life on the cross, not by being crucified, literally, but by making sacrifices and doing it for the sake of love. May we never let anyone thirst for love. May we never question God's plans for us. Again, this is Nona Adenia Vargas. Tayo po nawa ay patuloy na biyayaan ng kalakasan at kaligtasan ng ating Panginoon, upang patuloy rin tayong maging biyaya para sa iba.